The alarm screens flashed red across the bridge of the Crithian warship Endless Conquest. Commander Jalrix lifted his scaled head from the tactical display, his three eyes narrowing at the sudden interruption. His crew had been patrolling this sector for 6 cycles now, and nothing ever happened out here in the border regions. Nothing interesting anyway. Report, he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 200 years of military service. Sensor Officer Maltic tapped frantically at her console, her movements quick and nervous. Commander, we have an unknown contact. It appeared 17 units from our position, near the Verith Nebula's edge. Jalrix moved to her station, his boots heavy on the metal deck. Pirates again? Or debris from the old war? Neither, sir. Maltic's voice wavered. The signature is unlike anything in our database. Its reading is solid one moment, then vanishing the next. Our sensors cannot maintain a lock. This caught Jalrix's attention. The Crithian Empire had ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. Their sensor technology could track a single fighter across 5 star systems. Nothing escaped their detection nets. Nothing. Show me, he ordered. The main view screen shifted, displaying the dark purple clouds of the nebula. At first, Jalrix saw nothing. Then for just a moment something appeared. A vessel, sleek and small, its hull reflecting light in strange ways. Then it was gone again, as if it had never existed. By the ancestors, Jalrix whispered. What is that thing? The communications officer, a young male named Sorval, spoke up. Sir, should we attempt contact? Send standard hails on all frequencies. Trade languages, diplomatic codes, even the old tongue. Let's see if anyone is home. They waited. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Minutes passed. No response came. Nothing, Commander, Sorval reported. Either they cannot hear us or they choose not to answer. Jalrix considered his options. Unknown vessels in Imperial space were required to identify themselves. It was law, enforced by firepower when necessary. But something about this situation felt wrong. The way the vessel appeared and disappeared, the complete absence of any propulsion signature, the silence. Bring the fleet to readiness condition 2, he ordered. Have the Striking Hammer and Golden Pride move to flanking positions. We're going to get closer. The Endless Conquest moved forward, its massive engines pushing the 2-kilometer warship through space. The rest of Jalrix's small battle group followed, forming a standard interception pattern. They had done this 1,000 times before with smugglers, rebels, and foolish pirates. As they closed the distance, the strange vessel appeared again. This time Jalrix got a better look. It was perhaps 100 meters long, smooth and unmarked. No windows, no obvious weapons ports, no identification markings of any kind. Its hull seemed to shift colors, flowing from silver to black to something that hurt his eyes to perceive. Reading propulsion systems? He asked. Maltic shook her head, clearly frustrated. None, sir. No engine signature, no exhaust, no gravitational displacement. It's as if the vessel isn't moving at all, but space is moving around it. That's impossible. Yes, sir, I know. Jalrix watched as the unknown vessel drifted closer to his fleet's formation. It moved with an eerie grace, completely silent, completely inexplicable. His instincts, honed by decades of combat, screamed warnings at him. Weapons ready, shields at maximum, he commanded. But hold fire unless I give the order. We don't know what we're dealing with here. The tactical officer confirmed the orders, and Jalrix felt the subtle vibration as the Endless Conquest's weapon systems came online. Enough firepower to crack a moon sat ready at his command. The ghost vessel approached their blockade formation. 3 warships positioned to intercept anything trying to pass through their net. It was a formation that had stopped countless enemies before. The strange ship didn't slow down. It didn't change course. It simply continued forward at its steady, impossible pace. Sir, collision warning, Maltic shouted. That vessel is going to pass directly through our formation in 30 seconds. It will stop or turn, Jalrix said, though he wasn't certain. No ship would dare ram an Imperial battle group. 20 seconds. The vessel kept coming. Should we move, Commander? His helmsman asked nervously. Hold position. Let's see what this fool does. 10 seconds. Jalrix gripped the arms of his command chair. Every instinct told him to order evasive maneuvers, but pride kept him still. The Crithian Empire did not move aside for unknown vessels. 5 seconds. The ghost ship should have started emergency braking. It didn't. Then something impossible happened. The vessel passed directly through the Striking Hammer's hull. Not around it. Not over it. Through it. As if the warship wasn't there at all. as if it was nothing more than a hologram. "Striking hammer, report," Jalric shouted, leaping from his chair. "Did you take damage?" The reply came back confused and shaken. "No damage, Commander, no impact. The unknown vessel it phased right through us. Our sensors say it occupied the same space as our ship for 3 seconds, but we felt nothing. No collision, no breach, nothing." Jalric stared at the view screen in disbelief. In all his years, in all the battles and strange phenomena he had witnessed, nothing had prepared him for this. Ships did not pass through other ships. It violated every law of physics he knew. The ghost vessel continued on its path, drifting away from the fleet as if nothing had happened. "Attempt weapon lock," Jalric ordered, his voice hard. "If we can't block it, perhaps we can convince it to stop." Maltic worked her console. "Targeting systems cannot achieve lock, sir. The vessel is there, then it isn't. Our weapons predict its position, but by the time the calculations finish, it has already moved. Or shifted. Or something. I cannot explain it properly. Try anyway." The Endless Conquest fired a warning shot, a beam of concentrated energy that could slice through a battlecruiser's armor. The ghost ship flickered, and the beam passed harmlessly through empty space. Jalric felt cold dread settling in his gut. This wasn't a malfunction. This wasn't sensor glitches or faulty equipment. This vessel possessed technology so far beyond the Empire's understanding that it might as well be magic. "Open a priority channel to High Command," he said quietly. "Full security encryption. Tell them we have encountered something unprecedented. Tell them we need reinforcements, scientists, and every expert they can send." He stared at the view screen, watching the impossible vessel drift away into the darkness between stars. "And tell them," he added, "that the Empire may have finally found something it cannot simply conquer." The ghost ship vanished from their sensors one final time. But Jalric knew somehow that this was far from over. This was only the beginning. High Admiral Korthax stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Fist of Empire, and watched the assembled fleet spread out before him. 217 warships representing the greatest military force ever gathered in this sector, carriers filled with fighters, dreadnoughts bristling with weapons, support vessels carrying equipment that could reshape planets. If Commander Jalric was right, and something truly unknown lurked in these border regions, Korthax would crush it with overwhelming force. He was old, even by Crithian standards. His scales had faded from bright crimson to a dull copper, and his movements carried the stiffness of age. But his mind remained sharp and his reputation remained fearsome. In 300 years of service, he had never lost a major battle. He did not intend to start now. "Admiral, the fleet report's ready," his second-in-command announced. "All vessels are in position around the asteroid field. The target vessel is confirmed inside the perimeter." "Good," Korthax rumbled. He turned to face the tactical display, which showed their trap laid out in perfect detail. The ghost ship, as the crews had started calling it, sat in the center of a massive asteroid field. His fleet surrounded the area completely, creating a sphere of ships that nothing could escape through. "Deploy gravity nets," he commanded. "I want space itself locked down. Whatever tricks this vessel uses, we'll trap it in place first." Across the fleet, specialized vessels activated their gravity manipulation systems. Invisible fields of force began to weave through the asteroid field, creating a web that would hold even the fastest ship in place. The technology was expensive and rare, but the Empire had plenty of resources. "Nets deployed and active, Admiral. All readings nominal," Korthax nodded. "Activate quantum disruptors. Full power." Now the real weapons came online. Disruptors that tore at the fabric of space-time itself, making it impossible for any known ship to maintain shields or structural integrity. The Empire had developed these weapons specifically to fight the energy-based luminarchs decades ago. They were brutally effective. "Sir, the ghost vessel is still reading on sensors. It has not moved." "Perhaps it finally realizes it's outmatched," Korthax said with satisfaction. "Prepare reality anchors. If this thing is phasing between dimensions or using some kind of cloaking technology, the anchors will force it into our space." The reality anchors were the newest weapon in the Empire's arsenal, barely out of testing. They locked down dimensional boundaries, preventing any travel or shifting between different layers of space. Only 5 ships in the fleet carried them, and their power requirements were enormous. "Anchors activating now, sir. All systems showing green." The trap was complete. Gravity nets, quantum disruptors, and reality anchors all working together. Nothing in the known galaxy could escape such a combination. Korthax felt a surge of satisfaction. Whatever this ghost ship was, whoever built it, they would learn to respect Imperial might. Now we wait, he said, and watch. For several minutes nothing happened. The ghost ship remained where it was, appearing and disappearing on sensors as it had before, but it didn't try to escape. Korthax began to wonder if perhaps the vessel was damaged or unmanned. Then it moved, but it didn't move like any ship should. It didn't accelerate. It didn't turn. It simply existed in a different position, as if it had teleported a few kilometers to the left. Then it moved again, this time appearing behind an asteroid that should have blocked its path. Admiral, the gravity nets are reporting. Something strange, the tactical officer said, confusion clear in his voice. The vessel isn't fighting against them. It's as if the nets aren't even there. Why, that's impossible. Check your readings. I have checked them, sir. Multiple times. The nets are active and functioning perfectly. The ghost ship is simply ignoring them. Korthax felt a flicker of unease. Fine, begin the assault. All ships fire at will. I want that vessel disabled or destroyed. The fleet opened fire. Thousands of weapons discharged simultaneously. Energy beams that could melt mountains. Missiles that could crack continents, plasma cannons that burned at stellar temperatures. The asteroid field lit up like a newborn star as enough firepower to sterilize a world converged on one small vessel. When the light faded, the ghost ship remained, untouched, undamaged, unchanged. Impossible, Korthax whispered. Admiral, the tactical computer is showing something odd, his second-in-command reported. According to the prediction algorithms, the ghost ship was never in any of the positions we fired at. It's as if it knew where every shot would be before we fired. That's not possible. Our targeting systems are instantaneous. Yes, sir. I know, but the data doesn't lie. Every weapon fired at a position the ghost ship had already moved from. Not moved to avoid the shot, but had already moved before we even fired. Korthax stared at the readings, his mind struggling to accept what they implied. It's predicting our attacks? Or something else, sir? Something we don't understand. Launch all fighters, Korthax ordered, his voice tight. Get pilots close to that vessel. Sensors and weapons at range aren't working. Let's see what our people can learn with their own eyes. Across the fleet, launch bays opened and fighters poured out like angry insects. Thousands of small craft, each piloted by trained warriors, streamed toward the ghost ship. Their orders were simple. Get close, observe, and if possible, force the vessel to respond. Fighter Squadron Leader Vextar led the first wave in. She was an experienced pilot, calm under pressure with 70 confirmed kills to her name. As she approached the ghost ship, she activated all her sensors and watched the readings carefully. Command, this is Vextar. I have visual on the target. It looks strange. The hull appears to be flowing like liquid metal. I'm not seeing any visible propulsion, no weapons, no markings at all. Copy that, Vextar. Move closer and maintain observation. She brought her fighter within 100 meters of the ghost ship. This close, she could see details that the long-range sensors missed. The vessel's surface seemed to ripple with colors that shouldn't exist, patterns that made her eyes water. Command, I'm getting unusual readings on my instruments. Mass signature it's showing 0. Temperature is showing 0. Electromagnetic field is completely absent. It's as if this ship doesn't physically exist. Say again, Vextar. The ship is right in front of me. I can see it with my own eyes. But my instruments say there's nothing here. No mass, no energy, nothing. Before Command could respond, Vextar watched something that would haunt her for the rest of her life. A large asteroid drifted toward the ghost ship, moving on its natural trajectory through the field. She expected the vessel to move or for the asteroid to impact it. Instead, the asteroid passed directly through the ghost ship. She saw the rock enter the vessel's hull on one side and emerge from the other side. Completely unchanged, the ghost ship flickered for just a moment like a bad hologram, then solidified again. By all the gods, Vextar breathed. Command, did you see that? The asteroid passed through it. Passed through it. This isn't a ship. I don't know what this is, but it's not a ship. Admiral Korthax stood frozen on his bridge, watching the fighter squadron cam footage. His crew stared at their displays in stunned silence. Nothing made sense. The laws of physics were being violated right in front of them. All ships, cease fire, he said quietly. Fall back to defensive positions, sir? His second-in-command questioned. We can't fight this. We're wasting ammunition on something that exists outside our understanding. Fall back and establish a perimeter. I need to think. As the fleet began its retreat, the ghost ship finally responded. A transmission came through on all frequencies at once, perfectly clear, in flawless Crithian language. Why do you persist in shooting at shadows? The voice was calm, almost amused. Human. Though Korthax didn't recognize that, the transmission ended as abruptly as it began. Korthax stared at the speaker in his command throne, feeling true fear for the first time in a century. They had thrown everything at this vessel, everything, and it had simply ignored them, as if the Empire's might was nothing more than an inconvenience. "Get me the Science Council," he said, his voice hoarse, "and send a priority message to the Emperor himself. We need help. Real help." He looked back at the view screen, where the ghost ship drifted peacefully among the asteroids, completely unthreatened by the mightiest fleet the Crithians could assemble. "What are you?" he whispered to the empty bridge. The Grand Council chamber on Krithia Prime had not seen such a gathering in 50 years. Representatives from across the known galaxy filled the vast hall, their voices creating a din of confusion and worry. The Crithian Empire had called for aid, and that alone was enough to terrify the smaller civilizations. Ambassador Thelmora of the Vane Collective floated in her environmental sphere, her crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns. She had lived for 800 years and thought she had seen everything the galaxy could offer. The footage Admiral Korthax had transmitted proved her wrong. "This is clearly a hoax," declared General Zarthun of the Zyrathi Hive. His insectoid features twisted with suspicion. "The Empire wishes to trick us into combining our fleets, placing our forces under their command." "It is no hoax," High Counselor Marketh said, his old voice carrying authority through the chamber. He was the Emperor's personal representative, and his word was law in situations like this. "We have verified the sensor logs. We have interviewed the witnesses. We have sent 3 more fleets to observe the vessel. All reports are identical. This ghost ship, whatever it is, represents a threat to everything we know. A luminarch named Brightness of Dawn pulsed with skeptical light. The energy being's translated thoughts echoed through the chamber. The Crithian Empire asks us to believe in a ship that cannot be touched, cannot be damaged, and ignores the laws of physics. Forgive our doubt." Marketh gestured to the viewing screen, where footage of the ghost ship played again. "See for yourselves. We are not asking you to believe our words. We are asking you to believe your own eyes." The assembled representatives watched in silence as the recording showed massive Imperial warships firing at the strange vessel, their weapons passing through it like light through air. They saw fighters approach it, saw asteroids drift through its hull, saw it move in ways that should be impossible. Thelmora felt a chill run through her crystalline core. She had studied physics for 3 centuries. She had helped design some of the Vane Collective's most advanced ships. Nothing in her vast knowledge could explain what she was seeing. "If this is real," she said slowly, her voice singing through her sphere's speakers, "then we must assume it is a weapon. A probe sent to scout before an invasion. Whatever species built this has technology centuries beyond our own." "Agreed," said Zarthun, his earlier suspicion replaced by grim acceptance. "The Hive's science cast has analyzed the data. They believe the vessel is phasing through multiple dimensions simultaneously. It exists in our space and in other spaces at the same time." Brightness of Dawn pulsed with concerned light. "If they can build one such vessel, they can build thousands. We must prepare a defense or prepare to surrender." The chamber erupted in debate. Some wanted to attempt communication again. Others wanted to flee to distant sectors. A few suggested destroying the vessel with weapons so powerful they would crack the planet it orbited. Marketh raised his hand for silence. "We have a plan. Our finest scientists, along with experts from the Vane Collective and the Luminarch houses, have designed a trap, a dimensional cage that will lock down all of spacetime in a specific area. The vessel cannot phase shift if there are no other dimensions to shift into." "You have tested this?" Thelmora asked. "In simulations, yes." "The theory is sound." "Theory," Zarthun said darkly. "Always theory. But very well. The Hive will commit 30 warships to this effort. If the Empire's plan fails, at least we will have witnessed it together." Over the following days, the coalition assembled. Not since the ancient war had so many different species worked together. The Crithian Empire provided the warships and the location. The Vane Collective brought their dimensional scientists and specialized equipment. The Luminarchs contributed their unique understanding of space-time. Even the Zirathi, who rarely cooperated with anyone, sent their best technical minds. The trap was built at the junction of 3 star systems, a place where space naturally bent and twisted. If the ghost ship followed its previous pattern, it would pass through this region within the week. And when it did, they would be ready. Dr. Risala stood on the observation deck of the research vessel seeking truth and watched the preparations with mixed feelings. She was young for a Crithian scientist, barely 70 years old, but her work on quantum mechanics had earned her a place on this mission. She should have been excited. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. Instead, she felt dread. Something about this entire situation felt wrong. The ghost ship had done nothing aggressive. It hadn't fired on anyone. It hadn't threatened any planets. It simply existed and moved through space in ways they didn't understand, and their response was to trap it, cage it, presumably destroy it. Dr. Risala, her assistant, a Vane named Crystal Song, floated beside her. The dimensional cage is almost complete. They want you to verify the calculations one last time. Of course, Risala said, turning away from the viewport. Though I still think we should try talking to it first. We tried. It didn't respond, except for that one cryptic message about shooting at shadows. Risala pulled up the calculations on her datapad, checking the complex mathematics that would power their trap. The numbers were correct as far as she could tell. When activated, the cage would create a bubble of locked space-time. Nothing would be able to enter or leave. Nothing would be able to shift between dimensions. Whatever occupied that space would be frozen in their current phase of reality. Something troubles you, Crystal Song observed. Her species was good at reading emotions even across biological differences. Yes, Risala admitted. That message. Why do you persist in shooting at shadows? What did it mean? That we are wasting our time? That it is not threatened? Maybe. Or maybe it meant something deeper. Shadows aren't real things. They're absences of light. What if the ghost ship is trying to tell us that we're fighting something that isn't actually there? Not in the way we think, anyway. Before Crystal Song could respond, alarms sounded throughout the research vessel. The ghost ship has been detected, a voice announced over the speakers. It is entering the trap zone. All vessels to stations. Activate the dimensional cage on my mark. Risala rushed to her console, joining dozens of other scientists in monitoring the cage's activation. She watched her screens as the ghost ship drifted closer, moving at its usual steady pace. It seemed so small and harmless compared to the massive coalition fleet surrounding it. All systems ready, the mission commander announced. Activate cage in 3, 2, 1. Now the dimensional cage came to life. Risala saw the readings on her console spike to maximum levels. Energy poured into the space around the ghost ship, billions of units of power creating a prison of locked reality. For one moment, one brief, glorious moment, it worked. The ghost ship stopped flickering. It solidified completely on their sensors. Risala got readings she had never seen before. The vessel was small, yes, but its hull was made of materials that shouldn't exist. Elements that weren't on any periodic table. Structures that existed in more than 3 dimensions. It was beautiful and terrifying in its impossibility. We have it, someone shouted. Then the ghost ship did something unexpected. It emitted a pulse. Not an energy weapon, not an explosion. Just a pulse of something. A quantum signature that spread out from the vessel in all directions. Risala watched in amazement as the pulse reached their ships. And when it did, something strange happened. Every artificial intelligence on every ship in the fleet simultaneously displayed the same message on its screen. Every computer, every ship's brain, every automated system showed the exact same question. The words appeared in perfect script on Risala's console, glowing softly. Why are you afraid of something that's already gone? She read it 3 times, not understanding. Already gone? Gone where? Gone when? Then she looked at her sensor readings of the ghost ship, and her blood ran cold. The timestamp on the readings, the quantum signature she was analyzing. It was showing something impossible. The data was old, very old. Not recorded in the present moment, but recorded in the past. The ship they were looking at, the readings they were getting, weren't from now. They were echoes, afterimages. The ghost ship wasn't in their present at all. It was displaced in time, existing microseconds or seconds ahead or behind their current moment. Crystal Song, she said urgently. Pull up the ghost ship's movement logs. All of them, from every encounter. Her assistant quickly compiled the data. Risala studied the patterns, her mind racing. The ghost ship never moved through space in the traditional sense. It moved through time. When it appeared to teleport, it was actually stepping slightly forward or backward through the time stream. When weapons passed through it, they were firing at where it had been or would be, never where it was. By the ancestors, she whispered, we're not fighting a ship that can't be touched. We're fighting a ship that's never in the same moment as us. The dimensional cage began to fail. The ghost ship, existing partially in the past and future simultaneously, simply wasn't affected by a trap designed for the present. It flickered once, twice, then phased out of the cage completely. And as it left, every AI in the fleet asked its question one more time. Why are you afraid of something that's already gone? Risala sat down heavily in her chair, her mind spinning with possibilities. If the ship could move through time, Dr. Risala worked through the night cycle, her eyes burning from staring at screens for so many hours. Crystal Song had gone to rest, but Risala couldn't stop. She knew she was close to understanding something important, something that would change everything. The research vessel's archives contained data going back thousands of years. Military records, sensor logs, even ancient star charts from before the Empire had conquered most of the known galaxy. Risala searched through them all, looking for any mention of ships that moved strangely, that appeared and disappeared, that existed outside normal space-time. She found nothing. Nothing at all. Until she went back further. 10,000 years ago, the galaxy had been very different. Dozens of species competed for resources and territory. Wars raged constantly. The Crithian Empire had been just one small civilization among many, not the dominant force it would later become. And according to the old records, there had been another species, one that showed great promise. Humans. Risala had heard of them in history classes, but only briefly. They were mentioned as a failed species, one that had destroyed itself in some kind of civil war. Their worlds had gone silent suddenly, all at once, leaving behind ruins and mysteries. Most historians assumed they had blown themselves up with weapons too powerful to control. But what if that wasn't true? Risala dug deeper into the archives, accessing files that were marked as historical curiosities barely worth keeping. She found reports from Crethian scouts who had visited human worlds shortly after they went silent. The descriptions were strange. No bodies, no destruction. The cities stood empty but intact. Ships sat in orbital docks, undamaged but abandoned. It was as if every human had simply vanished at the same moment, leaving everything behind. One report caught her attention. A Crithian archaeologist had explored a human research facility on a planet called Earth. In the facility's records, translated with difficulty from the dead human language, he found something interesting. The humans had been working on something they called temporal displacement, time travel. According to the fragmentary notes, the humans believed they were trapped. Their species had grown too aggressive, too violent, too destructive. They had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times with wars and weapons. But a group of their scientists proposed a radical solution. If they couldn't change their nature, perhaps they could escape it. They could leave physical space entirely and exist in the margins of time itself. The archaeologist had dismissed this as fantasy, as myth. Species couldn't just abandon physical form. It was impossible. His report was filed away and forgotten. But Risala sat staring at those old words, and they suddenly made perfect sense. The ghost ship didn't phase through space. It phased through time, because it was built by humans who had learned to exist outside normal time. They hadn't destroyed themselves. They had evolved beyond physical reality. Impossible, she muttered to herself. But even as she said it, she knew it was true. She needed proof. Real proof. Something more than ancient reports and guesses. Risala pulled up the quantum signature data from the ghost ship, the strange pulse it had sent when they tried to trap it. She had been studying it for days without understanding what it meant. Now, with her new theory, she looked at it differently. The signature wasn't random. It was information, densely packed in a format that no one had thought to decode properly. She ran it through translation algorithms, quantum decryption programs, every tool she had access to. Slowly, patterns emerged. Mathematical formulas, physical constants, and then buried deep in the data, something else, a genetic marker. DNA sequences, human DNA sequences. Risala's hands shook as she compiled her findings. She now had proof that the ghost ship was connected to humanity, but she needed to verify it against human genetic records. The problem was, human genetic data from 10,000 years ago was almost impossible to find. The species had been gone for so long that most of their biological information had been lost. Almost impossible. But not quite. She remembered a museum on Krithia Prime, a place that kept samples from extinct species. She contacted them immediately, not caring that it was the middle of the night cycle for them too. "This is Dr. Risala, Priority Research for the Imperial Science Council. I need access to your human genetic samples." "Yes, humans. The extinct species. I don't care if they're old, I need them now." 2 hours later, she had the data. Ancient, degraded, but enough. She compared it to the genetic markers in the ghost ship's signature. It matched. Perfectly. "They're human," she whispered to the empty lab. "The ghost ship is human." But that raised more questions than it answered. If humanity had learned to transcend physical form 10,000 years ago, why were they back now? Why were they exploring the galaxy in these strange vessels? And what did they want? Risala thought back to the messages the ghost ship had sent. "Why do you persist in shooting at shadows? And why are you afraid of something that's already gone?" They weren't threats. They were questions. Real questions. Asking why the current civilizations were reacting with violence to something they didn't understand. She needed to report this. The Grand Council had to know what they were really dealing with. This wasn't an enemy invasion force. This was humanity, or what humanity had become, returning to the galaxy they once called home. But as she prepared her report, her console beeped with an urgent message. It was from High Counselor Marketh himself, marked as highest priority. "All vessels, all stations, prepare for emergency broadcast. We have a situation." Risala pulled up the fleet-wide communication channel, her heart racing. On the screen, Marketh's old face looked shaken, almost frightened. "Attention all forces," he said, his voice tight. "The situation has changed dramatically. We are detecting multiple ghost ship signatures, not just one vessel but many. They are appearing simultaneously across Imperial space." Risala switched her sensors to the tactical display, and her breath caught in her throat. He was right. Ghost ship signatures were appearing everywhere. 10, 20, 50, 100. They materialized at major Imperial worlds, trade routes, military installations, each one identical to the original vessel that had started all of this. "All military units are ordered to defensive positions," Marketh continued. "Do not, I repeat, do not fire on the vessels unless they show hostile intent. We are attempting to establish communication." Risala watched the map light up with more and more contacts. The ghost ships were appearing in the territories of every major species. The Vane Collective, the Zirathi Hive, the Luminarch houses. No one was being excluded. Whatever was happening, it was happening to everyone at once. Her console chimed with an incoming transmission. It wasn't from the fleet. It wasn't from any known source. It was coming from the nearest ghost ship, which had appeared in orbit of their research vessel just minutes ago. "Dr. Risala," a voice said. It was speaking Krithian, but with an accent she had never heard before. "We know you have been searching for answers. We know you understand what we are. You are correct. We are human, or what humanity has become after 10,000 years of evolution beyond flesh." "Why?" Risala found herself asking. "Why are you here?" "Why now?" "Because we have been watching. Always watching. We left physical form to survive, but we never left this galaxy. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have watched species make the same mistakes that nearly destroyed us. The Krithian Empire in particular has been following a dangerous path. Are you here to stop us? To punish us?" The voice on the other end paused. When it spoke again, it sounded sad. "No, we are here to offer you a choice. The same choice we once faced. Continue on your current path of conquest and domination, or evolve into something better. We cannot force you to change. We can only show you that another way exists. What if we refuse? Then you refuse. We will not harm you. We will not invade or conquer. We gave up such things long ago. But understand this. The galaxy is infinite and the universe is even larger. There are forces out there that make your empire seem small. If your species cannot learn to move beyond violence and aggression, you will eventually encounter something that will destroy you. We nearly made that mistake. We hope you will not." The transmission ended, leaving Risala alone with her thoughts. Around her, Throughout the galaxy, hundreds of ghost ships waited silently, not threatening, not attacking, simply present, like living reminders that evolution was always possible. She began to write her report, knowing that everything had changed. The question now wasn't how to fight the ghost ships. It was whether the galaxy's civilizations would have the wisdom to listen to what they were offering. In the ancient human facility on Earth, 10,000 years ago, humans had made an impossible choice. They had chosen to evolve beyond their own violent nature, even if it meant giving up everything they knew. Now that choice was being offered to others. And no one knew what would happen next. The Emperor's throne room on Krithia Prime had stood for 2,000 years, a symbol of unshakable power. Emperor Valthros XVI sat on that throne now, listening to reports from across his empire, and for the first time in his long reign, he felt uncertain. On the massive view screens that lined the walls, he could see ghost ships hovering over his most important worlds. They had been there for 3 days now, doing nothing. Just waiting. The entire galaxy held its breath, expecting war, but no war came. Dr. Risala's report is confirmed, Your Majesty. High Counselor Marketh said, his voice weary. We have verified her findings through multiple sources. The ghost ships are of human origin. Humanity did not die out 10,000 years ago. They transcended physical form. Valthros was old, even by Imperial standards. He had ruled for nearly a century, and before that he had been a general, a diplomat, a scholar. He had seen much in his 400 years of life, but this challenged everything he thought he knew about the universe. And these humans, he said slowly, what do they want? Revenge for ancient wrongs? Territory? Resources? None of those things, Majesty. They have made contact with several of our research teams. Their message is consistent across all communications. They claim to be offering us a choice. When what choice? Marketh hesitated. To evolve beyond our current nature. To abandon conquest and domination. To become something they call post-physical beings. They say they are here not as conquerors, but as teachers. Silence filled the throne room. The Emperor's advisors shifted uncomfortably. Teaching implied that students had something to learn, that their way was somehow wrong. The Empire had ruled through strength for millennia. To suggest they needed to change was to question the foundation of their entire civilization. Admiral Korthak stepped forward. His fleet still surrounded the original ghost ship, though his weapons remained cold. Your Majesty, with respect, this could be a trick. A way to make us lower our defenses before they strike. I recommend we test their intentions. How would you propose we do that, Admiral? Fire on one of their vessels. If they truly mean no harm, they will simply evade as they have before. If they are hostile, they will reveal their true nature. And if we anger them? Another advisor asked.
These beings have technology so far beyond ours that we cannot even touch their ships.
If we provoke them into violence, we could doom the entire empire. The debate raged on, but Valthros was no longer listening. His mind had gone to a memory from long ago when he was young. He had been a soldier then, fighting in the conquest of the vain collective worlds. He remembered standing in the ruins of a crystalline city, watching refugees flee into the wilderness. An old vain elder had looked at him with her many-faceted eyes and said something he had never forgotten. You think you are strong because you can destroy, but true strength is in what you choose not to destroy. He had dismissed those words at the time. Now, 400 years later, they echoed in his mind. A priority transmission interrupted the council meeting. The communication officer's voice was urgent. Your Majesty, the humans are broadcasting a message. It's being sent to every inhabited planet, every ship, every station in the galaxy. Everyone can hear it. Put it through, Valthros commanded. The view screens changed, showing not a human but a representation of one. A holographic figure that looked like the ancient descriptions of humanity. Bipedal, smooth-skinned, remarkably similar to Krithians in basic shape but different in countless small ways. When it spoke, its voice was transmitted in every known language simultaneously. People of the galaxy, we are what remains of humanity. 10,000 years ago, our species stood where many of you stand now. We were aggressive, territorial, violent. We built weapons that could crack worlds. We waged wars that killed billions. We nearly destroyed ourselves completely. The hologram paused, as if remembering painful history. We were given a warning by a species far older than us, a species that has since moved beyond this galaxy entirely. They told us that the universe is filled with predators, with forces that view violent civilizations as threats to be eliminated. They told us we had a choice, evolve or be destroyed. We chose evolution. We chose to abandon our physical forms and exist as patterns of consciousness in the fabric of time itself. It was not easy. We gave up everything we knew. Our bodies, our worlds, our familiar reality. But we survived. And in surviving, we became something better. The hologram's expression softened. Now we return to the galaxy we once called home, and we see the same patterns repeating. The Crithian Empire expands through conquest. The Zyrathi hive consumes resources without thought for sustainability. The Vane Collective hoards knowledge while others struggle. You are all following the path we once walked, and that path leads to destruction. We cannot force you to change. We will not invade your worlds or threaten your people, but we can show you what is possible. We can teach you how to transcend the limitations of flesh, how to exist beyond the cycle of violence and competition, how to evolve into beings of pure thought and energy. The choice is yours. We will remain here waiting for those who wish to learn. For those who choose to continue as you are, we wish you well. But know that the universe is watching, and violent civilizations do not survive long. The predators will come eventually, and when they do, your weapons will not save you. Only evolution can. The transmission ended, leaving stunned silence across the galaxy. In the throne room, Emperor Valthros sat very still. He looked at Admiral Korthax, at High Counselor Marketh, at all his advisors and generals. These were good people, loyal and true, but they were also products of an empire built on conquest. They knew no other way. The humans ask us to give up everything we are, Korthax said into the silence. Our bodies, our worlds, our very existence as a physical civilization. It's too much. We should refuse, perhaps, Valthros said quietly. But consider what we would gain. They offer us immortality of a sort. Freedom from physical needs, from disease, from death. They offer us the ability to explore the universe in ways we never could in these limited forms. At what cost, Majesty? Our identity? Our culture? Everything that makes us Crithian? Valthros had no answer to that. Across the galaxy, different species were having similar conversations. Some rejected the human offer immediately, seeing it as a threat to everything they valued. Others were curious, cautiously interested in learning more. And a few, particularly younger civilizations tired of being dominated by the Empire, were actively enthusiastic. Dr. Risala stood in her laboratory and made a decision that would change her life forever. She had spent her entire existence studying the physical universe, understanding how matter and energy worked. The humans offered knowledge beyond anything she had ever imagined. She recorded a message to her family explaining her choice. Then she contacted the nearest ghost ship and volunteered to be the first Crithian to attempt the transformation. The process was unlike anything she could have imagined. Her consciousness was slowly uploaded, converted from electrical impulses in a biological brain into patterns of quantum information. She felt her body falling away, becoming irrelevant. For a terrifying moment, she existed in a void, neither physical nor non-physical. Then she opened her new senses, and the universe blazed with information. She could perceive time itself, could see the past and future as easily as she had once seen colors. She could exist in multiple places simultaneously, could think at speeds that made her old biological brain seem impossibly slow. She had become what humans had become, a being of pure consciousness dwelling in the spaces between moments, and she was not alone. Other volunteers were joining her from different species, different worlds. Young people mostly, those who were not invested in the old ways, who wanted something different, something better. But many chose to remain as they were. Emperor Valthros made his announcement personally. The Crithian Empire would not mandate transformation. Those who wished to evolve could do so freely. Those who wished to remain physical could keep their worlds and their ways. The Empire would adapt, would find a new path forward that honored both choices. It was Admiral Korthax who surprised everyone. The old warrior, who had spent 3 centuries fighting for the Empire, who had seemed the least likely to accept change, stepped forward during the announcement. "I have thought long about this," he said, his voice carrying the weight of his years. "I have fought wars for this empire. I have killed countless beings in its name. I have believed that strength came from the ability to destroy. But the humans have shown us something I never expected to see. They are stronger than us, more advanced than us, and yet they do not conquer. They do not dominate. Perhaps true strength really is in what we choose not to destroy. He turned to face the Emperor. I wish to be among the first to transform. Let an old warrior show that it is never too late to evolve. In the end, the galaxy split into 3 groups. Some species, like the Zyrathi hive, rejected the humans entirely and withdrew to their own territories, determined to remain as they had always been. Others, like the younger civilizations, embraced transformation eagerly, and most, including the Crithian Empire, chose a middle path, allowing individuals,